Morning and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft in the studios on our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition today, as always, we are also on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T 99 in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and more on Birmingham Area Municipal Access. And in the Bloomfield Hills area, 88.1 WBFH The Biff. Today on Facebook via Facebook Live, as we always are, joined by a partner in the community. That partner is actually one of our co-hosts here, Ronnie Dahl, who joins me now from her home studios.
Hey, Tyler. By the way, when I come on the air, typically my husband will give our dog Trixie a bully stick, which, anyone who follows me on social media knows what those are. We were surprised to find out the anatomy of the bull that a bully stick came from. But she is so loud when she's chewing. Can you hear her? Because she sits right in front of my desk.
I cannot hear her at the moment as she chews the last part of the bowl to go over the fence, but that's probably good. That's a good thing. She can chew loudly and know that our listeners are in peace.
But happy Groundhog Day to you.
Yes, happy Groundhog Day. It feels like, once again, it's Groundhog Day. Every day has felt like Groundhog Day for the last 11 months, but here we are on actual Groundhog Day, so congratulations to Bill Murray. You made it another year.
I know. I just posted on my social media. I'd be cool with Punxsutawney Phil. He did come out of his little hole and indicated there's 6 more weeks of winter, which we've had a mild winter here, so we've been pretty lucky. But I'm like, if only he could predict how much longer we're going to be in the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd be cool if it was 6 weeks and then you could go back to life as we used to know it.
I remember when this was only going to be 6 weeks, and then, that didn't happen. So, 6 more weeks of winter, we can take 6 more weeks. So, what do you, is that the best you got? Punxsutawney Phil, you get out of your hole once a year, you get scared of your shadow, and all of a sudden, now we got more winter. Bring it on. I don't care. 6 more weeks of this is easy. The East Coast, you're screwed. But us, we'll be fine. We only got like 2 inches of snow all winter.
Yeah, we've had less snow. I think I saw yesterday less snow here in our region this entire season than the state of New York got yesterday. So they are really getting hammered right now. More snow on the way, although we are going to get extremely cold temperatures. So they're saying by next week or by the weekend, the high is only going to be like in the teens. So the sunshine is coming out today and tomorrow. Get outside, enjoy it, because it's going to be about 30 something, still great walking weather. Enjoy it before the cold snap comes in. Hey, but Tyler, we were talking a little bit earlier. I was looking up the first Groundhog Day, 1887. That was the first Groundhog Day, and it was because the local newspaper editor sold a group of businessmen and groundhog hunters known collectively as the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club on the ideal of having a Groundhog Day, of course, in Pennsylvania. And look at that. All these years later, we are still celebrating the tradition.
It's nice to know that you can still come up with something that's completely pointless and people will follow along with it hundreds of years later.
Well, you know what, though?
It's fun. It
is fun. Although, just like everything else, it is virtual this year as well from Pennsylvania and other ones across the country. Of course, here in our local area, we have, what is the rodent's name in Howell? At the Howell Nature Center, they do one as well.
Yeah, I don't recall his name, but I did hear some rumors from on site in Pennsylvania that Punxsutawney Phil was double masking, being safe, very smart, very very prudent community safety there from good old Phil.
Oh my goodness! But there is still a lot going on this Groundhog's Day. Let them play. We had Mark Hall on the show last week. He is a parent of a couple of the players, and they had the big rally over the weekend. Thousands of people attended, and this morning at 10 o'clock, so right now while we're on air, they're expected to be holding a press conference, the attorney, so we're going to be watching that for you to see if anything new is coming out of that. But then also a little bit later in the 11 o'clock hour, we will be having someone from the Michigan High School Athletic Association on with us to talk about any new developments as well and where they go from now. Because of course, the high school sports, winter sports, are on a hiatus. They're on a pause per se, as we continue to navigate COVID-19. So a lot of parents are anxious to get their kids back to playing sports. But I will tell you too, this is also a hard time, Tyler. People on unemployment, I'm telling you, the state of Michigan, Michigan workers endure yet another glitch in the unemployment system. Michigan government website used by jobless workers to file and certify claims stopped working on Monday, one day after the state emailed long-term unemployed workers directions on how to extend their benefits. So instead of being allowed to reactivate accounts and certify that their layoffs continue, workers were instead met with a blank screen as they tried to navigate from the Unemployment Insurance Agency system into the system now known as MI Login, so My Login, and that is going to be run by the Department of Technology, Management, and Budget. The issue started Monday morning, and by 5:30 p.m., no cause had been identified, and it was also undetermined as to when it will be fixed or how many workers were shut out of the system. You have to wonder, I know it's really hard for so many of these people in IT to go live, but you wonder why they don't test these systems before putting it out to the public. If you remember way back when they launched the website for what was then known as Obamacare, it kept crashing as well.
Technology and management are the first two words in that department's name, and they're neither. And they got neither of them. This is the second time they've had major glitches with the unemployment insurance agency's systems during this pandemic. I mean, they had a huge slowdown before that they just lollygagged along trying to fix, and now they got this where they're putting blank screens up, and they wonder why people are frustrated with the state government. I mean, I get that government's number one piece of work is not working, but still. This is ridiculous. People are trying to get their unemployment checks. They're trying to get in and file for extensions, and they're not able to do that. They're going to miss their deadline. They're going to be like, oh, well, tough cookies. You missed the deadline. No, your system stinks. Fix it. I mean, it doesn't help, too, that these systems from the onset are also just god-awful. And so there's not really a great way to fix something when you've made something that is made to break.
Well, but on top of that, if you're someone who's collecting unemployment, things are pretty tight already.
Right.
And how do you explain that? Like your bills are due, and now your credit report's going to be jacked up because you're late paying your bills because of all these systems. You're stressed out as it is. And this isn't customer service 101. You don't get a refund. They don't say, we're sorry for the inconvenience and our poor service. We're going to go ahead and refund you. No. We're still taking your tax dollars. We're still going to mismanage your tax dollars. Right. And you know what? We're sorry. Have a good day.
Sorry you missed your bills. You missed your bills. We're still gonna collect the tax dollars from the income you're not getting. Your credit report's gonna be all jacked up, but it's fine because we won't help you recover that too, and let the credit bureaus know it's our fault and not yours that you missed your bills. So oops. Just send an email to these people being like, oops, just one word, oops. I mean, it's this kind of thing you don't want to hear from your state unemployment insurance agency, your surgeon, your general care doctor, an airplane pilot. Just go for it. Just send oops.
So here's another one that has you kind of scratching your head. The Moderna vaccine thought spoiled. They're now saying, nope, that's okay to use. Remember, this happened back in January. Nearly 9,000 doses of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine that officials thought were spoiled because of temperature control issues during delivery here to Michigan. The state health officials now are saying, no, those are okay to use. Michigan Department of Health and Human Services said it has been notified by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention that the doses remain viable and they can be used to vaccinate Michiganders. So the monitoring devices used to check the vaccine temperature while in transport showed that 8,900 doses shipped by McKesson Corp in mid-January went outside of the recommended range, getting too cold. But now the CDC is saying They are okay to use. Put them in the arms of the individuals. The vaccine is good. Another oops, Tyler.
Yeah, it's a pretty big oopsie because a lot of these vaccines could have already been shots in arms, could have been less of a delay in this process, could have gotten people their second shots in that process and gotten them through it already at this point. And I get that you learn more things over time and that these vaccines were rushed through the systems at play in order to be out into the public in a timely manner to hopefully get us out of this pandemic as soon as possible. But these are things that really should be already being tested in process as things are being released, and figuring this out, especially after a massive delays, not just in Michigan, but all throughout the U.S. and the world with these vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer so far. That's another big oops.
Here's some good news, though. Oakland County schools report 0 new COVID outbreaks.
No oops there.
No surprise here, though, because so many schools are just now getting back to in session. But of the 129 new COVID-19 outbreaks at Michigan schools reported for the last week, none of them were here in Oakland County. An outbreak, by the way, is defined by the state as 2 or more cases that have shared exposure on school grounds and are from different households. So ongoing outbreaks continue to be listed at 5 schools here in Oakland County. Among them, Our Lady of the Lakes High School in Waterford, as well as Lawrence Tech and Southfield. Not on the list, Oakland University, because they've been on the list of ongoing outbreaks for months. Their name has been removed from that list. Some of the outbreaks occurring in our region, which is 2N, according to the state of Michigan, that includes Oakland County, Macomb, and St. Clair. There were 13 new outbreaks at long-term care facilities. That continues to be a major problem here in the state of Michigan. 6 in manufacturing and construction sites, 6 at healthcare facilities, 3 at office settings, 2 at child care settings, and 1 at social gatherings and outdoor community exposure. So one thing, so this information regarding the schools and some of these other entities, that data is released by the state health department each and every Monday. One thing, while they are identifying the schools, they do not identify the businesses and the companies typically involved in some of these outbreaks. But again, you can get that information if you go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and then at the top of the page, the bottom is where we post the headlines, but at the top, that is where we have direct links to various entities, including the state of Michigan. And on the state of Michigan's website, they put that information pretty front and center for people to be able to find it. You can also go on to Oakland County and search by your zip code.
Yeah, good to see that information that no Oakland County schools are reporting outbreaks at the time, or new outbreaks at least, or ongoing outbreaks, as the article read. And that's great news, especially as a lot of these schools return to some sort of in-person learning. We talked to Deanna Barish yesterday on the show from the West Bloomfield School District about their hybrid return to in-person learning that began late in January with a couple of days, and this is their first full week in that system. And with the governor's goal of getting all of Michigan schools having some in-person learning by the 1st of next month, this is good news here in Oakland County, and hopefully these schools and Oakland County schools as a collective organization will be able to keep this pace up.
Yeah, so, but also, but as we start to see things reopen, right, that's when the numbers typically go up. So we need to anticipate that as well. More and more things are reopening. People are going to be returning to the bars and the restaurants. That means more people out and about. And so those numbers we would anticipate are going to start to rise. You know, it's interesting though, because it's not uncommon for people this time of year here in the state of Michigan to go south to get away from the cold winter months. But now people are leaving Michigan, Tyler, just to go south, even if it's just to go to Ohio, to be able to experience life with looser restrictions. Because Florida, from what I can see, I have so many friends visiting Florida, they're having the time of their lives down there. And it's not just because of the sunshine and the sandy beaches, but it's because they are so much more open and they are able to enjoy a lunch and dinner in restaurants. So it'll be interesting to see if those people are going to now not be down south, but they'll be here and stay closer to home, because now we can enjoy some of the restaurants. Because for a lot of people, this really is playing on their mental state. It's not being able, especially people who are single and don't have anyone else in their household, to have those relationships with. So we'll see, though. I would anticipate those numbers are going to rise, though, over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think you can expect to see the numbers rise when you do loosen restrictions. I think that has to be expected, loosening any restrictions with the virus still very much at play, with these variants out and about. I think what the state's going to be looking at in particular is the rate at which that spike occurs. If it's a major spike, then clearly people are not following those guidelines. They're being way too loose and open during COVID-19's continued spread, despite these restrictions still being rather stringent, particularly in restaurants. And so it's, once again, it is up to the general public to continue to be extremely cautious about COVID-19 with these businesses being reopened, with sectors of our economy and our general life being back open in some capacity, because being irresponsible or just frankly being careless is what has had these businesses end up being shut down time and time again, because they've proven to be able to operate safely, particularly these businesses. They are following guidelines. They're extremely cautious. It's not their fault that they continue to have these issues. It's because the state keeps shutting them down. The state keeps shutting them down because when things are loosened, people don't seem to be nearly as cautious, or they let their guards down rather quickly. So it's up to us and the general public. If we really want to support these restaurants that have reopened, these other businesses that have been able to slowly but surely reopen in some capacity, we need to be extra careful.
So we will have a couple people on a little bit later in the show from the Griffin Claw Brewing Company here with us. They have locations in Birmingham and Rochester Hills. I've been to the one in Birmingham quite a few times, so they'll be on with us a little bit later in the show, talk about a reopening, what it means for them. But we'll also be speaking with the executive director for the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition, talking about substance abuse with some of our teens as well. So a lot to get to on today's show, but we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will be joined by John Fitzgerald, the chief for the Keego Harbor Police Department. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19, or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/contain-COVID.
Welcome back to the Megacast. For those that may be joining us for the first time, although I doubt there are any first-time people, but if you are, thank you, because we are streaming this on today's edition on my Facebook page. So we do kind of reach people outside of our normal area as well. Tyler and Dave Scott started this show way back last March as a way to try to keep the public informed about everything that was happening with COVID-19 and the crisis, because the information was changing so rapidly, and also to be able to do that in a long interview format. Never in their wildest dreams did they anticipate the show would be still going on 11 months later, but yet here we are, and the news continues to change, but we are all now much better adapted at dealing with it. And with us now on the show, we are pleased to bring in John Fitzgerald, the fine chief of the Keego Harbor Police Department. Chief, always great to have you.
Good morning, Ronnie. How are you?
We are great. How are things in Keego?
Things are going very well, thank you. Things, it's a great community, and we just went over like our crime stats last month with the city council, and happy to say it is a very low crime community. It's a community where people are keeping an eye out for each other, and I'm happy to be here working for these people.
So, Chief, with that, do you think because so many more people are at home now that they are watching out that crime is down, or could it be the opposite?
It's hard to say. Ours is pretty low, and it's always better when you have more people around. They're at home, they're looking out their windows, they're calling in a suspicious car that doesn't belong in the neighborhood, somebody walking around a house. We're getting phone calls on that kind of stuff, and we appreciate them. We try and come out and check out all those calls that we get, and I think it's just natural that if you have more people at home watching your neighborhood, you have a better chance of having less crime.
So my husband gets irritated with me because we, of course, live in a subdivision. So you pretty much know everyone that lives here. And when I see people and I don't recognize them, because I still always remember the story, there was a family in Sylvan Lake, and someone backed up a moving van to their house and stole everything. It was during the middle of the day, and neighbors saw it, but just assumed they were moving and didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm like, with people, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know you. Which house do you live in? If they don't have a house, I'll be, oh, who do you know in the neighborhood? And he's like, you can't do that. I'm like, oh yeah, I can.
That's being a good neighbor, and if you're doing it safely and watching out for yourself. If there's any suspicion that you truly think it's wrong, or there's any danger in it, call us and let us do that. But you're being a great neighbor, watching out for your next door neighbor and you across the street and all that. Great job.
Yeah, and I just think that neighbor probably felt horrible. They just felt horrible because they watched it, but just assumed they were moving. So
I kind of had the same thing when we were moving into our new house. We were building in a new subdivision, and this is 20 years ago, but the house next to us we were already in, and they were building the house next to us. So the builders would leave their work trailers on that lot, figuring that, hey, there's only a couple people living in this whole subdivision right now. We'll park it right next to their house, so it's less likely to get stolen. And lo and behold, wake up one morning and somebody's expensive woodworking trailer for all the finished trim and everything and tools and all was gone. And they came over and they go, we didn't see it because it was in the middle of the night and it was on the quiet side of the side of the house where you don't really look out and see. But yeah, you feel bad about that too. It's like, wow, they almost had me watching their stuff and I felt bad that it was gone.
There is a big change though, even in our neighborhood. Pretty much every house at this point in time has some type of Ring camera or device on their front doors. I don't know so much about the back, but at least on the front. Have you seen that tradition or just kind of change throughout the community as a whole?
Yeah, since I've come into law enforcement, it was very rare to see any kind of security system or cameras on somebody's house. And now you can almost count on every third house in the neighborhood having at least a Ring doorbell. And so we do use that when we can, when somebody's willing to share video with us. If you find out that your neighbor had something stolen off their porch, look at your video. If it shows anything that you think we can use, give us a call and we will come out and try and use that to stop crimes and solve crimes as much as possible. It could be a big crime, it could be a small crime, but it has come in helpful for police departments across the country when people are willing to share their video.
Because we recently had someone some Amazon packages stolen off of their porch. I mean, people are pretty bold because you can see that they have a Ring camera right there. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it seems like some of the thieves, they're like, so I'll be on camera. Or
nowadays everybody's wearing a mask, and in the winter they put hats and scarves and hoods up. My detective made one suggestion: if people can, if they have security cameras, have one of them at more at an eye level than looking down, because most of our ones on front porches are looking down on top of people, where the baseball hat bill, the brim, and the hood covers their face, so it makes it harder to identify somebody. They're still helpful sometimes, and sometimes we'll catch a car in the background or, you know, some distinctive clothing on somebody. But if you have something more that goes right straight at their face, that'll be even more helpful for us.
That's a good tip to remember, because it's not enough just to put the camera out there, but look at the angle of it as well.
Yeah.
And I know for us, a lot of times we forget to charge the battery, because you can actually speak to people as well if it goes off. But if your battery's not charged, that's not helping you much, because you're not getting the alert. So Chief, I have to give kudos to you and Chief or to Officer Cote. Was it 2 weeks ago now? We were sitting here doing the show, and we had an electrical fire in our garage, but I was smelling the smoke, and I didn't want to call 911. But ended up having to, but Cote beat it here before the fire department, which still in both cases, minutes, like literally, I don't even think it was minutes. And, but they were great. And so that is, again, one of the reasons we're so lucky to live in this community, because the response time is extremely fast when you call for help.
Well, thanks for the compliment. I'm going to pass it along to Officer Cote. He does a great job out there in serving the citizens and being there when he's needed. So do the rest of the guys that work with us. And I know you know a few of them, and a lot of our residents know every one of them, because it is a small community, and they care about what they're doing.
How are things going for you guys? Like we were saying that we're like 10, 11 months into the pandemic now. In the beginning, there was so much concern about is someone positive or not positive, tested you couldn't even get a test. How are things going now? Is it become just pretty much normal to for your officers to respond, and people, being respectful and having masks on when they get there and things of that nature?
Well, it's a mixture of everything out there, because everybody's got a different level of concern for this virus. Some people are not that worried about it and have that attitude of, if it's going to get me, it's going to get me. And there's a lot of people that are truly afraid of it. And the good thing is you can make a choice whether you go out, whether you wear your mask religiously, whether, you take every precaution you can. I have seen more and more people getting less cautious as time goes on. But then again, remember, people are getting vaccines, and I'm not the medical expert, so I'm not going to tell you how they're working and how preventative they are. But people are getting their vaccines. Many people have already had it and have developed antibodies, and I don't know that they know yet how long those antibodies are going to stay in there, or how much they're going to prevent either this version or whatever mutated version comes along. But I've seen a big change in the fear level of a lot of people out there. And there are some people that really should be cautious with the immune system problems and with health problems. And those are the ones that have to make that decision to, not mix and mingle out with the public. And then there's a lot of people that, with the rate of recovery for, it seems, a lot of people are going to be fine once they get it and have it. So I'm not the doctor to tell them exactly what to do, but I have seen a change in attitudes out there.
Have you and members of your team been able to get the vaccine at this point?
It has been offered. We have, it's kind of medical information, so we're not going to put out who has or hasn't, but it is available for first responder police officers now.
Well, that's good. And it's like you said, some people choose to get it and other people choose not to get it. I keep saying I'm going to go to, I think Kroger now, you can get the test to see if you have the antibodies. Because
I know that.
Yeah, and someone said it was like $25, and because I'm like, I've never had it, but I'm like, I'm sure I've had it. Like I feel like I've had it. I've been out and around so much, so I want to get the antibody test, and for $25, it's worth it just to know.
Well, I think another way is Red Cross. If you go to donate blood, I think they do a test on your blood, and they'll tell you if you have the antibodies, and there you're doing something good for the community. It's not costing you $25, and you still get the answer.
And that is such a great point that you just brought up, because we had them on a couple of weeks ago, and they need donors right now, especially people who have had COVID and they have the antibodies, for them to be able to donate their plasma. So that's a good reminder there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, for anybody considering doing that, I did go in and do that, and it's a little bit longer than a regular donation, but it's the same kind of thing. If you've ever had your blood drawn, it's not a big deal. You sit there and watch some TV. They take your blood, and I don't know how it helps, but apparently it helps severely ill COVID patients. So it's something to go out there and help other people with if you've already been through it and survived it.
You know what's so great about that is really when you think about it, you're helping save someone. Like, you know, and that's got to be a great feeling. And while donating blood has been, you know, around forever, and we understand that portion of it, and it is contributing and helping other people. But really, when it comes to the plasma, I think people are forgetting that they do still need plasma because the vaccine is out there, and everyone's talking about the vaccine. But a lot of people still can't get the vaccine, but there are also, like you said, some people just not comfortable getting the vaccine.
Correct. Yep.
Well, it's great that you did that. Did you get the cookies at the end, though? I'm always like, what kind of cookies are you serving?
Of course, I got some of the cookies, and I got some of the pretzels, and I got a bottle of water. I mean, you're going in there, they're not paying you, but you might as well get something out of it, right?
Right. Hey, Chief, so while we have you here, obviously it's wintertime, and one of the popular things to do here in Keego Harbor is to go out on the lake and go ice fishing. How are things going? Have you guys had any incidents yet this year?
Luckily, we have not had any incidents. I think a lot of people are familiar with a couple weeks ago, unfortunately, a young man went through the ice on Wolverine Lake, which is not too far from here. You know, same winter conditions over there as we would have here on Cass Lake and Sylvan Lake. He went through on a snowmobile and didn't survive. It took him an hour for rescue workers, from what I understand, to get to him and get him out of the water. And that's the problem you have when you go out on the ice. I mean, you may think it's safe. You may think you're ready for it. But if you go through, getting rescue workers out to you could take quite a while. You have to be prepared to save yourself. You know, if you're going to venture out on the ice, you want to take those hand spikes with you so you can help pull yourself out of the ice. You want to know how thick the ice is where you're going. Study your lake and figure out where the currents are, because different currents in different parts of the lake change the thickness of the ice and change the stability of the ice. And you might be coming from a spot you could drive a truck on and feet over one direction, and all of a sudden you can't stand there because the underwater currents have weakened the ice so much. So you have to be very careful out there on the ice if you venture out yourself.
You know, we hear the story every single year too, where as someone's pet goes out on the ice and the pet's owner goes out after them and they end up falling through. I believe recently with the West Bloomfield Fire Department, when they were at our house, they were telling us about another dog that fell through the ice and did not make it. And so it's like you said, it's important to know and understand the water because we've done this interview a couple times and touched on this subject, but what you were just saying about the current, I never even thought about that as something to be aware of. So
yes, if you look on just out on Cass Lake, one part would be solid, but if you go up towards another area, towards where the river runs out to Otter Lake, you could see open water. So someplace in between there, the ice turns not safe. And if there's snow over the top of it, you don't know what the ice is underneath it. And from what I understand, a layer of snow helps weaken the ice too. So another thing to be cautious of.
And so with that, are anyone on your department trained for water rescues, or that's pretty much handled by the fire department?
We pretty much leave that up to the fire department. They have better equipment and training for it. They're the real rescue guys. And I'm not going to say that our guys wouldn't be doing everything they could for you, but it's also another thing of, do we want to start losing other people for someone's mistake of what they did out there? Right.
I mean, there's a lot to go into these rescues and these water rescues, but we see them out there. And I will say, I know this past weekend, Sylvan Lake had a big ice skating event going on out on the lake, and I wanted to go, but I still get nervous. I don't know. It's like a mental thing, I think.
That's a common thing. And I don't know if you've ever fallen through, but I've gone through before in Lake Michigan, and that makes me extremely cautious on the ice. I used to be way more carefree, but years ago after I went through, it's like, I don't trust the ice anymore because it seemed pretty safe where I was at. And I know people who will take their snowmobiles or drive their trucks out there. Another thing to remember is you take a vehicle on the ice, and if it goes through the ice, you are responsible for all the fees to get it back out of the water, which is not cheap. And you may be hit with, from Department of Natural Resources, cleanup fees if there's any oil spills, gas spills, that kind of stuff. So it can get very expensive if you end up having your vehicle go through the ice, because that is your fault for being out there.
Because also, how do you explain that to your insurance company? Oh, by the way, I thought it was thick enough.
What was the one meme I think I saw? The pickup truck was nose first through the ice, and he's asking his insurance guy, "Hey, do we still get coverage if we hit an animal?" He goes, "Yeah, what'd you hit?" It was a walleye.
Oh, it's and it's really never, you feel so horrible for the people when it happens to them, because I've covered that story several times before in my past life, and they just feel horrible, but it's, as long as you survive it, then that's okay, because the rest of it can be dealt with.
Sorry about that, Ronnie.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say another thing on ice safety, and it's the same with water safety. If you're taking a vehicle out, and especially in a closed vehicle like a pickup or a car to go out ice fishing somewhere, you should have the tools in your car to get out. A window punch in case your car goes through. It's going to be the same as if it goes through and somebody drives off the edge in the summer. You're going to want to get out of that vehicle and not go to the bottom in it, and you may not be able to open the doors. Apparently, I saw a special on it the other day that your windows should work for 10 seconds to 1 minute to roll down, and that's what you should do first thing, is get them rolled down and get out. Don't stop and call 911 until you're safely out of the car, because you're wasting precious time to get out. But keep a window punch in your car, so that if you have to break a window, and go for the side windows, because the front and back aren't going to come out very easy, and get yourself out of that car and up on top of the ice as fast as you can.
Well, it's good advice, but let's hope nobody in the community ever needs to use it. With that, Chief, quickly before we let you go, obviously the bars and the restaurants are reopened for in-person dining. What does that mean for you and your team, or pretty much nothing?
It doesn't change a lot. I mean, it's the Michigan Department of Health that sets the rules and sets the guidelines. Every restaurant that decides to reopen, and I love seeing them come back. I know personally a couple of restaurants that have closed, and they're closed for good now because of all this. It's heartbreaking, the people that put the time and effort into it. The ones that are able to open back up now, and I know some are taking their time and going to give it a couple of weeks to see if they can get their workers back and how the flow of people is, because there's going to be people that don't want to go out to eat again yet. Still, they're worried about their own health, but as far as the rules and regulations for it, it's the health department and the restaurants and bars that have liquor licenses have to worry about their liquor license through the state is a big thing if they're not following the rules.
So if a complaint comes in, it doesn't necessarily go to your department for you and your officers to go to that establishment to check to see if they're wearing a mask or following the protocols set forth by the state then?
Well, if we get a call, we'll investigate what we get called to go investigate and look at. But for the most part, if we see something, and it's not immediately life-threatening, we're not arresting somebody at the restaurant. It might involve a report to the health department and let them worry about it with their administrative punishments that they do. I don't think it's really a criminal issue that the police department is going to arrest or write tickets for.
I think it's great that Oakland County has stepped in to help some of our local restaurants by providing them the outdoor garden sheds so that they could have some outdoor dining, because I don't think that's going to be going away anytime soon, especially if it's a 25% capacity. You're going to still need those. So that's been nice to see. I think it's Jaybirds, or that name changes all the time. I think it's still Jaybirds. I don't know, but B1s, they had them as well. We were sitting out there on Sunday, and it's chilly. It's still chilly, but it's still nice that they're able to reopen and provide some type of service.
And people are getting out of their houses and not having to eat out of a styrofoam takeout container if they're ordering out, which is just another nice thing. But it's just nice to be out and see people again. So.
I know, I miss people. I never thought I would say that, but I miss people.
Yeah, and that's why I enjoy still having to come into work, I do this because I want to, and the interaction with people is what I think almost everybody really needs.
Well, Chief, it's great to have you here with us on the show. And also, we're lucky to have you here in the community, as well as everyone on your staff. And again, kudos to Officer Cote. He's so well known here in our community, but he definitely can put a person's mind at ease when you're in those frantic moments of having to call for help.
Mhm.
And he's such a calming person as well. So it was great. And he, along with the members of the fire department, stayed and definitely made sure there was no further danger, because we were worried that the fire could have gotten into the wiring.
Mhm.
And into the basement, but they were so good. And plus he, helped us get an electrician and everything. And so we're so lucky to call Keego Harbor a home. I will say, I remember way back when we were looking at buying houses, and I looked at a house in Detroit. It was probably 4 times the size, but less money. It was such a great house. But the number one reason we didn't buy is because you knew if you called 911, it was going to be a while before help arrived. So it's great that we have such it's a sense of peace here in our community. So thank you to you and your team.
Well, you're welcome, and sharing that with the fire department too. They make a great team with us, with Chief Flynn and his guys. So really appreciate the compliments, and I'll pass that on to Officer Cote and the other officers.
Well, and cookies are on the way. I just have to make them. I did make some the other day, but they burnt. So I'm like, I might just buy them. I'll go to Ellen's and buy them.
They burnt, or somebody at home just ate them up?
No, they kind of like, I forgot about them. I tend to do that. Well, and they were edible to a degree, but there's some like you'll maybe eat, but you can't give them away.
Oh, I know that story. Yeah, you can't throw them out, but you can't give them away. So
exactly. So, well, Chief, anything else you want to touch on before we let you go?
No, I think we got the ice safety, and I think we're pretty good. But one thing about the, you weren't sure about calling 911 right away when you were smelling the smoke in your house. If there's any suspicion of a fire going on, call 911. We'll get there. We'll figure it out. I mean, we're all paid to show up at your house anyhow. And I'd rather get there sooner than too late, because once they get roaring, sometimes they can't stop it. And I'm sure the fire department would agree with me on that one, that, if once you think there's something there, call us and let us help figure it out, especially the fire department.
Well, we're so appreciative of you and your service and those of all of our first responders. So thank you so much. With that, Chief, we know you got a lot going on today, so we're going to go ahead and let you go. But thanks again for always taking time out of your day to be with us here on the MegaCast. We appreciate it. Anytime,
Ronnie. Thank you. Have a great day.
And happy Groundhog Day.
Oh, happy Groundhog Day. That's right.
I know. I'm like, that's what I said. It was like, it's like the, last 11 months, every day's Groundhog Day, right?
It's going to be spring sometime. So whether it's next week or 6 weeks.
Exactly. Well, thank you again. We're going to take a quick break here on the MegaCast.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV, our flagship stations. Ronnie Dahl continues to join us from her home studios in Keego Harbor. We'll get back to her at the top of the hour. As we mentioned earlier, the organizers of Let Them Play organized a press conference today that was held at 10 a.m. That press conference has completed. However, we have obtained video and audio via Facebook Live from Fox 17 out of Grand Rapids, and thank them for picking up this press conference today. And we will play that audio now for you and that video for you now as we take you toward the 11 o'clock hour and then come back at the top of the hour to continue with our interviews here on the Oakland County Megacast. Here is recorded footage from earlier on today via Fox 17 in Grand Rapids from the Let Them Play press conference.
A little bit after 10. Thank you all for being with us. My name is Matt Resch with Resch Strategies. Just facilitating this morning. Peter Riddell from Honigman will be on here in just 1 second to talk about why you're all with us. Just some housekeeping. Obviously, everybody's on mute. If we could just keep that throughout. What we'll do is, if you're able to use the chat box to put your name, I think Peter has maybe 5 or 7 minutes of opening comments. If you're able to put your name and your outlet into the chat box, we can go ahead and take questions afterwards and try to work it through that way. Laura and my team will kind of go through the chat box and call on folks. Everybody's muted, but if you're able to just unmute yourself, obviously, when we call on you, then we can get the question and move through things here pretty quickly. So with that, Peter, I will turn things over to you.
Hey, thanks a bunch, Matt. I really appreciate you facilitating this and putting this together for us. Before we get going, I just want to have a couple of additional housekeeping items for the media. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for participating today. I know a lot of you have reached out to me directly in the past 24, 48 or so hours, and I apologize I'm not able to have one-on-ones with absolutely everyone. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time to do this, so you can hear collectively how we are moving. Sure. My name is Peter Rudell, and I'm with the law firm of Honigman LLP. I'm here alone to address the answers to any questions you may have regarding the litigation that we filed earlier today, and be able to have direct dialogue with you today. I would ask that you would respect the student athletes who have come forward as plaintiffs, refrain from reaching out to them too aggressively. We should be able to address all of your questions either today or would be happy to with follow-up very quickly. So just ask for your consideration there. So that's all my housekeeping items, and with that, I'll get into kind of the real meat of this press conference and presentation. So unfortunately this morning we had to take action we would have preferred not to take. We filed a lawsuit against the Department of Health and Human Services Director Elizabeth Hertel in her official capacity. Unfortunately, there is no other place for citizens to appeal a decision that restricts the parents and student athletes' ability to pursue a key component of their public education. The ban on athletic practice and competition has restricted the ability of these and many other student athletes from achieving their career pathway, competing, practicing, and potentially gaining college scholarships. As many of you are aware, we sent a letter last week on January 25th to the state health director, the newly appointed state health director, identifying 6 major reasons why she should reverse the decision that her predecessor had made just 3 days earlier. I'll go through those 6 reasons, and then we'll talk a little bit more specifically about the complaint. So just the reasons kind of orient our thinking on this issue and why it is important for student athletes to continue to practice and compete. First and foremost, the data and science supports resumption of youth sports. We have seen that through the pilot study that MHSAA conducted with the state health department, where they tested over 5,000 athletes and coaches, which resulted in over 30,000 tests being conducted on those individuals with a 99.8% negativity rate. We also have experience from other states, the surrounding states, Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, that have shown a decrease in transmission of COVID-19 during the period of time when they have been operating winter sports, which is in all of those states since December 1st. The third point is team sports are a key component of a student athlete's public education in the state of Michigan. Dr. Vitti has made this statement repeatedly in the last 10 days and before, and it is one of our guiding principles as we continue to move forward. Education achievement is critically linked to athletic opportunities. The non-cognitive skills that a student athlete learns as part of a team, both teamwork, grit, perseverance, are valuable lifelong skills that are important and a key component of our public education system. The one thing that I've learned, and is very troubling to me in the last 2 weeks, is how the racial and economic inequities are continuing to grow as a result of this shutdown of high school athletics. Those with means are able to travel to Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, wherever, to conduct their sport, compete, and play, where those students who rely on the public system are left behind. I think that's critically unfortunate for those students. Talked to those in hockey, and there are at least 150 hockey teams each weekend traveling out of the state to go participate in other states, and then of course staying in hotels, eating in restaurants, and then returning. And the sixth and final point is our economic and education pathways are closing when students don't have this opportunity both to be part of a team as well as have the opportunity to gain an athletic scholarship if that's appropriate. The next thing I'll go through is I'll talk real briefly about the court case itself, what we have done, where we have filed, and a quick summary of some of the plaintiffs and the allegations that we make. So first and foremost, as I said earlier, we filed the complaint against the Department of Health and Human Services Director Elizabeth Hertel in her official capacity. The complaint was filed this morning in the Michigan Court of Claims. Summons has not issued yet. Therefore, the state of Michigan has not been properly served the complaint. However, we have provided a courtesy copy to the Department of Attorney General, and they have received that earlier this morning. I'll talk briefly about the plaintiffs. The first plaintiff is Let Them Play Michigan Incorporated. This is a grassroots organization that is comprised of parents, coaches, student athletes, and school administrators. This organization successfully held a rally that many of you may have covered on Saturday, where we had thousands of student athletes express their First Amendment rights and their desire to resume in-person winter sports. The second plaintiff is Michigan Amateur Youth Hockey League. It is a youth hockey league that its sole purpose is to provide a positive and rewarding hockey experience for young hockey players. Additionally, we have Brian and Rona Detloff on behalf of themselves and their minor son, Carter Detloff. Carter is a hockey player with Mona Shores in Muskegon. Jay Steinman on behalf of himself and his minor son, Nathan Steinman. Nathan is a basketball player in Clarkston. Dean Wenzel on behalf of his daughters, Gabriella and Julia Wenzel. Those two young ladies are excellent basketball players for Michigan Lutheran Seminary. TJ Titus on behalf of herself and her son, Brady Titus. Brady is a junior basketball player with Tri-Unity Christian in Wyoming, Michigan, and is one of the state's top basketball recruits. He has already received as a junior numerous Division I athletic opportunities. And then Christina Brazel on behalf of herself and her son, Zachary Nichols. Zachary is a fantastic hockey player down in Temperance, Bedford, right over the Ohio border. Actually works in a hockey arena in Ohio where he can watch his friends play, but his team just a few miles away cannot. The allegations that we make in our verified complaint allege violations of Michigan's Constitution, the United States Constitution, and various sections of Michigan law. These are all as a result of the emergency order promulgated by former DHHS Director Robert Gordon on January 22nd. Some of these allegations have been made in other complaints. Some of them are brand new to this complaint and have not been filed in any court to our knowledge within the state of Michigan. The first and foremost is a violation of equal protection claims. Clauses of both constitutions. An individual is afforded the right of equal protection under the law under both the Michigan and United States Constitution. A violation of procedural and substantive due process. When an individual's rights are taken away in some fashion, they are generally afforded an opportunity to protest that. In this case, the only opportunity is to go through the court system. A violation of a right to free assembly. That is a First Amendment right that has been guaranteed to all of us since the United States Constitution was enacted, and these student athletes do not have the opportunity to peacefully assemble to engage in their preferred activity, indoor athletics. A violation of Michigan's Constitution and its right to a free education. Michigan has always been at the forefront in affording a free public education to our citizens. We have two sections in our Constitution that guarantee this right, and athletics is a key component of a public education in the state of Michigan. We have included an affidavit from a school administrator, 2 school administrators affirming as such. This is a key component to our public education and is being deprived of these student athletes. A violation of the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. This is an age-based discrimination. High school athletes and those younger are unable to conduct indoor athletics, while college and professional teams do have that opportunity. So we have filed a claim against DHHS for violation of the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. And the final complaint, the final allegation, is a violation of the State Administrative Procedures Act. The orders issued by former Director Gordon were required to follow the State Administrative Procedures Act. None of these orders have followed that act. They have been prescribed outside the contours of the State Administrative Procedures Act, and therefore under state law are null. Some additional information that we have included in the complaint, Wisconsin study that shows student athletes do not transmit COVID-19 as a result of playing indoor athletics. Affidavit of Detroit Renaissance girls basketball coach Shane Lowell. I may have mispronounced that name. I apologize, Shane. An affidavit identifying how his students are at a disadvantage as a result of these ban on indoor athletics, and he's observing other students who have the opportunity to travel out of state and conduct their sport. And then the final thing is, and they are continuing to come in, so I don't have a final count. The last count I had was about 116 schools had sent letters to either the health director or the governor or both, urging them to reconsider the decision made in the January 22nd order that pushed winter sports back to February 21st. That concludes everything we had planned to discuss. I know there's going to be all sorts of questions. So Laura and Matt, please fire away with calling on those folks who are going to ask questions.
That from the press conference earlier today from Let Them Play Michigan. We once again thank our friends over at Fox 17 in Grand Rapids. Fox 17 in Grand Rapids with the video and audio from today's press conference. You can find more, get the press conference questions and the rest of that press conference, about 15 or so, 20 minutes or so left in that on Fox 17's Facebook page. Meanwhile, here on 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills, 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills, The Biff. We will continue the Oakland County Megacast after this break with another hour of great interviews here on the Oakland County Megacast.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together. Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Well, welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in my home studios while Mr. Tyler Keefe holds things down back there in West Bloomfield. We want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today. Tyler, thank you again for trying to bring the updated information on the lawsuit. So as we are hearing, Let Them Play, it's a grassroots organization. They have now officially filed a lawsuit with the state of Michigan and the Michigan Court of Claims regarding the issue of high school athletes not being able to play some winter sports right now. Really some interesting points that they were making in this lawsuit, Tyler, that I think we haven't heard in other lawsuits filed over the restrictions imposed by the state of Michigan due to the pandemic.
Yeah, they made some valid points. I think some of their points are a little contradictory to the situation that they're in, but overall, I think they have a decent case going into this. They have arguments that have some standing. It's whether or not they're able to do the work that they need to prove that this is a violation of their rights under the state constitution, the federal constitution as well, and that will be to be seen as time goes on. But they made some solid arguments going into this lawsuit, and certainly have plenty of support going into it. It's a matter of showing that rights have been violated and that these restrictions are unjustly being put in place, and that we'll see in due time.
Well, we'll dig a little bit deeper into this a little bit later on, because around 11:40, we are going to have the Assistant Director of Communications for the Michigan High School Athletic Association on with us. But in the meantime, if we can go ahead and get to our next guest, we do apologize for the bit of the delay. Lisa Berkey with us here on the Megacast. She's the Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition. Thank you for being with us again.
Good morning. Thanks for asking me to join.
Well, and again, we apologize. We just know so many people are following the situation with Let It Play, and so many interested parties with the high school student athletes. But in the meantime, you guys are also concerned about our students as well. Talk more about your organization and your mission.
So the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition, basically our mission is to build community relationships to help kids with issues like drug and alcohol prevention, internet safety, anti-bullying, mental health, anything we can do to help kids become the best that they can be. So we're always looking for ways to help kids, especially during the pandemic.
I would imagine you guys had your hands full prior to the pandemic, and now we're in the middle of the pandemic. What are you seeing in changes with some of our students right now?
Well, I'm hearing a lot back from the schools, of course, mental health. It's hard as adults. It's hard for us to be stuck at home and not see our friends. So for kids, it's definitely harder. So we've been trying to come up with programming to help parents help their kids. But we're also coming up with, we came up with a toolbox called a Coping Skills Toolbox for some of our elementary school kids.
Because when it comes to our students and our kids, do parents have to look at them differently depending on their age group?
Of course, and your child. I mean, I have 2 adult children and both of them handled things differently at different ages. So you have to be flexible as a parent and find out what's going to work best with that child at that time.
So some of the advice that you're distributing in these toolboxes, can you share it with us?
Oh, definitely. So it's actually a very hands-on toolbox. It's a toolbox, and inside it there are different items for elementary age kids to learn different coping skills. For an example, we put bubbles in there. And the reason we put bubbles in there, it's just teaching kids how to take a deep breath. Because, you know, you and I know that if we're getting stressed out, taking a deep breath helps us, but they may not. And if you tell them just to take a deep breath, it's not going to work. So teaching them how with bubbles, or we have a journal in there, teaching them to write or draw their feelings helps. We have a stuffed animal that's very, very small, and it clips on to your phone or your glasses or your pencil. And it's just a soft feeling. So it's a calm, smoothing touch. We have a slinky. We have 2 different kinds of fidgets. One is a bracelet that is also a zipper, so that they're fidgeting with opening and closing the zipper while it's on their hand. And then it's kind of like a spiky ring that you can put on your finger and you can play with it. Play-Doh, stress ball, bubble wrap, all the things that can help you calm down. Not all of these will work for everybody, but the parents can see which one they like better and help them to know where to go when they're stressed out.
So is this one way for parents to identify when their child is stressed? And also, does it provide the student or the child some relief because it's distracting their mind in a way?
So yes, it's helping the child distract. I think it's best for the parents to go through the toolbox when they're calm and kind of see which one they like, and then slowly teach them that when the stress is coming or a difficult situation, that they eventually learn to go to that toolbox to pick what helps them cope the best.
Lisa Berkey with us here on the Megacast. She's the executive director for the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition. Lisa, what signs should parents look out for to know when their child is just experiencing stress and maybe acting out, but when they actually need professional help as well?
So I think it varies by age because children change at different ages. But if you see a drastic difference where they're sleeping all the time and not wanting to do anything, any drastic changes, we normally say if they've changed friends group or their grades have gone down, but I think that's more difficult now because we're not playing with our friends and grades may be dropping just because we're learning differently. But when you see drastic changes, I think it's always better to take them to be evaluated by a therapist versus waiting till something drastically happens. There's nothing wrong with going to talk to someone. It's like, I always compare talking to a therapist like putting away all your files. Don't you feel better when you've taken a stack of papers and filed them away? It just feels like a clean slate. And when you're talking to someone, I feel it's the same way because you're releasing it and learning how to deal with it.
Are there conversation cues that you can offer parents to try to open up some of these conversations on their own as well?
Always open-ended, definitely. I mean, if you ask for yes and no, you're not going to get it. And I think for them to realize that you're experiencing it as well. As a coalition, we have a program called Kids in Charge, which is an elementary-based education program on drugs and alcohol. But each session of Kids in Charge, we make sure includes coping skills, and refusal skills and safe and trusted adults. And I think those are important because kids right from the start are going to hear those topics over and over and know how to cope and know where they can go for help. So if we start making sure they're aware of it, I think that it'll just become common practice to them.
So on the topic of substance abuse, are you seeing an increase because so many more kids are left at home, more so now by themselves because of remote learning, and that then they may have access to alcohol and prescription drugs in the house?
Correct. We are hearing that things are increasing because kids are in the house across the county. There are 21 coalitions in Oakland County. I'm one of them, and they are starting some advertising on how to help parents with that. So like lock it up, make sure that your drugs are locked up and your alcohol is locked up. We always say that, but now it's even more important. Also, get rid of your unused and expired meds safely. If they're not in the house, the kids can't get to them, and you never want to flush. You want to take them. Most local police departments have drop boxes. Here in West Bloomfield, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They will take our unused and expired meds.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of parents weren't even thinking about this. They're in the medicine cabinet, they leave, and kids go exploring.
Definitely. We always prepare when they're toddlers and they're walking, right? We cover up the corners, we put in things in the outlets, but as a parent, we always have to prepare for the next stage. So as they're getting older and getting, in the tween age, you should start preparing your home accordingly and locking up those things.
So I read a statistic on your website, 90% of Americans with substance abuse use disorder began using substances before the age of 18. Because of the pandemic, as a community, do you think this is going to be a long-term issue that we need to start being aware of and putting plans in place to address this 2, 3, 4 years down the road?
I think we all have to put all sorts of plans in place because so many things are going to be changing. So yes, the 21 coalitions in Oakland County will definitely be looking at that and developing plans as a community to help these kids because we will see differences. And if you remember, even before the pandemic, we had vaping issues. So eventually we're going to have to get back to that as well and concentrate on making sure that our youth stops vaping. It's extremely dangerous.
Yeah, the whole thing just seemed to go away. I don't remember the last time I heard anything about it. Commercials were starting to come on, a lot of PSAs about vaping. I haven't seen anything recently.
No, once February hit, everything seemed to change.
Right?
We had other things to worry about, but we will. And we should still be concentrating on vaping. I'm sure the kids are still doing it. It's still very dangerous. It's addicting. And if you do, you're affecting your lungs. And we all know that COVID affects the lungs as well. So we have to be careful with that.
Are you guys seeing an increase of marijuana use with some of the younger kids? Because now with it being legal in the state of Michigan, more and more adults have it in the house.
So once it became legally, medically, we noticed that our perceived risk by our kids decreased. If it was legal medically, they thought, well, if a doctor prescribe it, it definitely can't harm me. So they were right from then thinking it wasn't going to hurt them. So yes, the perceived risk has decreased and usage has gone up by our youth as well as our adults. And with edibles and more recreational facilities opening up in our surrounding communities. West Bloomfield does not have any recreational stores for that.
No, Walled Lake has one. Pontiac is on the verge of getting several, I believe. So that's going to be I think a bigger issue going forward. And we like to remind the teens as well, especially the high school students, this can impact their futures. Because, you know, I used to work for ATF, a federal law enforcement agency, and we had to remind people, even though it's legal in the state, it is still illegal in the eyes of the federal government, but also a lot of employers as well. And sometimes when you're, you know, 16, 17, 18, and maybe even if you see your parents or, you know, respected elders that you know using it, it can be hard to get that message across to them.
Totally correct. Yes. So everyone does have to remember it's still illegal federally. It also, when our youth uses marijuana, it affects their brain. Their brain is not completely done until about 25 years old. So it's still changing and growing. And if you start smoking marijuana sooner, it's going to affect your brain. The other thing I don't think parents necessarily think of, like I said, I have adult children. So when my kids used to go to someone's house and play, I would, you know, make sure what was going on in their home. I would, if I knew they had guns, I would ask if they're locked up, or I may not send my child there. But I think a question for parents now when they're sending their children to play post-pandemic is about edibles. If somebody just has edibles in their candy dish, you need to be careful because kids automatically go to candy in a candy dish. They're not going to ask. So I think parents have to make sure that the parents that are sending their kids to their home are on the same page as they are about things like recreational marijuana.
concerned about during this time. I will say, in conversations like this, I'm like, I am so happy I am just a pet parent because so much stress, and then the additional stress during this time as well. Hey, Lisa, before we let you go, if a parent out there wants more information, where can they find it? And, I know that you have a website, but are there also tips on there for them to be aware of what to look for and the changes in their child?
Yes, so our website is gwbcoalition.org. And on our website, we always list our upcoming programming, but we also have information on vaping, marijuana, alcohol, prescription drugs, and things for them to look for, how to talk to your child. And we also have links to our sponsors, and we have links to the Alliance of Coalitions, who manages the 21 coalitions in Oakland County, because they have even more information.
Lisa Berkey with us, Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Community Coalition. Great to have you with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And again, if you're a parent or even a child at home and you're listening or watching this and you think you need help, please visit their website. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we will be taking a visit over to the Griffin Claw Brewing Company. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/containcovid.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. Remember way back in November, it was supposed to be just a 3-week pause on indoor dining. That has stretched into nearly 3 months, but now restaurants are allowed to welcome visitors indoors once again. With us today on the show, let's bring in Kyle VanDeventer. He's the sales director over at Griffin Claw Brewing Company, and along with him, Christopher Lasher. He's the marketing director. Great to have the two of you with us here on the Megacast.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Happy reopening, although the reopening comes with restrictions. How are you trying to accommodate your guest, but also playing by the new protocols?
Yeah, so we just, we did it once before. It was when it was at 50%, so it wasn't a huge transition to go down to 25%. And then we're just, we've been pretty good at adapting and staying safe. I think our staff is amazing. So we've got everything spaced out, different hours, of course, and then we'll have the lower capacity, but it'd just be nice to get people inside and stay warm. And we have, updated filtration systems and everything like that.
So you guys have been able to do outdoor dining though, right?
Yep. So, and it was actually pretty busy, which was interesting. The amount of people that not at the same time, but just a steady flow of people willing to eat out in the cold. We did have heaters, and we got some extra heaters from the city of Birmingham. But it's been real interesting.
So with that, going forward, how much has this impacted your bottom line? And if the restrictions continue and we go back through another shutdown, how long do you think you could survive?
Well,
So for us, I mean, we're a little bit different business model. So not only do we have our 2 tap rooms in Rochester Hills and Birmingham, but we also have a very healthy distribution model behind the 2 tap rooms. So, we get the luck of the draw when it comes to, the retailers, the Kroger, the Meijer, that kind of give us a different revenue stream. So we get the benefit of something that a lot of restaurants don't have. We also become a little bit of a destination because of that distribution model. So, our Tuesdays through Thursdays, we kind of have this home feeling where the people around us in the city of Birmingham kind of help us out and love to get away from the house a little bit. And then the weekends turns into a little bit of a destination from the people outside of our little local area. So we get the benefit of that. But even with it shut down, we were doing pretty good. I think people felt safe here. I think people felt that we were taking a lot of precautions and didn't have the same type of nervous Nelly feelings as you normally would going out in such a pandemic.
And another thing to add, real quick, is that we never used to do carryout before the pandemic. I mean, we offered it, but it wasn't a big part of our business. But it's been pretty amazing to see. We added online ordering and call ahead ordering, and our staff was able to quickly adapt to a more carryout model, and that really recouped a lot of our lost revenue. So all in all, it's been tough, and there's been hurdles and challenges, but we're doing okay.
So do you think that's going to stick around post-pandemic?
Yeah, it did. So after the first shutdown and when we went back to indoor dining, it still stayed very strong, the carry out. So I do think it's going to be a long-term thing for us.
We've had to alter even the tap rooms. We had to create a little to-go section, a place where carryouts were, stacked and stored, and we have, parking spots devoted to carryout now. We never had that before. Yeah, it's a whole different model, and I think that's going to stay strong. I think people, I know as someone that lives in downtown Royal Oak, I get a lot more delivery than I'm used to. So I think that's a model that'll stay true.
Yeah, that's one thing about this entire ordeal. Businesses have been able to adapt, and sometimes those adaptations have turned out to be a good thing. So that is nice. But have you found too that when it comes to some of the places such as yourself, I live in Keego Harbor, it's a small town, it really is, the locals are going to the local restaurants and bars because it's like you said, it's like our own little bubble, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, we're kind of right in a neighborhood over here too. And I think we get a lot of the people right in the very local neighborhood as well. And it's just been a lot of them actually go out of their way to show support by whether it's getting carry out or dining outside or anything like that. So it has been a really nice community support.
Yeah, at the beginning when we shut down the first time last March, I had myself, Lasher, and our whole sales team. We were the ones that were doing the to-go orders, and I got to know a lot more people. Usually I'm either behind a desk or out in the market, not actually in the restaurant. So I got to know our local favorites. The same guy that would come every Tuesday for root beer. I got to know him very well, and he still shows up. So it's more of a family sense than what I thought or what I knew, and I love our little community.
And does it help you also share the story behind the beer and how you make some of the, some of the marketing or some of your drinks and your food that you make?
Yeah, I mean, so we popped up on the scene 7 years ago, and not a lot of people knew the backstory or the history that, we started at Big Rock down the road. And I think a lot of this has turned our story into something different. And we got to express not only our history or our backstory, but the people that put this out there. Oftentimes you see our beer on a shelf out in Kroger or Meijer, and you really don't know who we are, what we do. And I think in the last 365 days, we've gotten an opportunity to not only show our local community, but Metro Detroit, Southeast Michigan, all of that, got to show them who we really are and what we do. And we're a lot more than just a silver can you see out in public.
So you had mentioned earlier about working with the city of Birmingham. What's this been like to have to reach out to the government entity? Because typically before, when you're starting a new business, you may go in, get a permit, sign this, sign that. But during this time, I think we're relying on our elected leaders and those that run our government offices in a different way. Have they reached out to you as business owners to try to help see you through the pandemic?
Yeah, they did. That was actually how we found out about the what they were doing with giving out supplies. So they reached out to us and all the other local restaurants in Birmingham to get on, sign up for different supplies. So we went down to the fire department where they were passing it out, and they handed us 6 propane heaters, propane tanks, and some a way to disperse sanitizer that was more efficient. And then we get propane exchanges as well, that we can go every week and get propane exchanges. So yeah, they actually reached out to us. It was really nice. And we appreciate it. Of course, we donated a ton of we still donate a lot of sand because we make sanitizer and to them. So I think that we have a really good relationship so far. But yeah, it has been interesting. It's nice to see them help a little bit. So
that's good with the propane, because I know for a lot of businesses that have the outdoor dining, that's a huge part of their bill, because it really adds up that
huge
cost.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you go through a tank a night on one heater sometimes.
So with that, I have to ask, you make the hand sanitizer. I have seen yours on some of the tables at area restaurants, but with that, I haven't purchased yours. I did buy some, I think, from 2 James way back in the beginning. But it smelled so much like alcohol. I was like, I've never put more alcohol on the outside of my body,
Yeah, that's what it is.
Have you guys been able to adapt the recipe a little bit through the months?
Basically, the thing was, during the beginning, we actually had quite a bit stocked up of what's called neutral grain spirits, which is, so we make liquor in addition to beer. And liquor is just essentially a beer recipe that's then, after it's fermented, it's distilled down into grain neutral spirits, which is anywhere from like 150 to 180 proof. And then, so basically we take that, it's just a clear liquor, it's just straight alcohol, ethyl alcohol, and we dilute it down to the minimum. The FDA requirements is 60%. We go 70 because we did a little research and found that too much alcohol is not good, and too little alcohol is also not good. And like the sweet spot's kind of 70%. So we go with 70 to stay safe. But yeah, that was what the FDA did, was they dropped some of their restrictions or their regulations down, so for the emergency production of sanitizer. But with that came guidance that said you weren't allowed to use certain other products. So you can use, there's like, I think 5 ingredients you're allowed to use. And of course there's alcohol, water, glycerol, which is like the gel that makes it spread more on your hands. But that was basically what their emergency guidance was. So we wanted to stick to that. And in order to go out, add different ingredients like aloe and things like that, you have to go outside of their requirements, and then you have to go through a full FDA approval process, which is very time consuming. So I think for the emergency order, it was just getting the actual FDA approved product into people's hands, which is why you see a lot of just basically straight liquor out there.
So with that, when you guys were making it, are you worried when you're driving home if you get pulled over? I always imagine this conversation. No, officer, I'm sorry, I haven't been drinking, but I have been putting hand sanitizer on, right? But the good thing is,
Yeah, a lot of.
So many police departments, I know that entities such as yours, you've delivered a lot of it to the police departments and the fire department. So at least they're going through it just as well as along with the rest of us, right?
Yeah, exactly. They'll pull us over and we'll just hand them a bottle of sanitizer.
Yeah, I mean, the state of Michigan is actually the people that took the most sanitizer from us. I think it was, upwards of 70% of the sanitizer that we made either went to, the state of Michigan, hospitals, frontline, government. It was a lot. It was trying to get it into the right place at the right time. And then in the same sense, I mean, we still sell it at the tap room and it still is, purchased quite a bit.
Wow. See, look at that. Out of a crisis comes a new side business for you as well. Hey, can we talk a little bit about your employees? So while you have been able to remain open, there are some smaller entities that have closed just because, for whatever reason, where they were located didn't allow for them to have outdoor dining, or carry out wasn't enough to sustain them being open. But you've allowed to remain open, but what's this been like for your employees? And are you worried that you're not going to be able to get employees to come back?
Yeah, it's been a concern, but we actually ended up hiring people in addition. So that's how busy we kind of got with the outdoor. The only people that didn't, so during the first shutdown, all the servers and bartenders didn't work because we were completely shut down and just carry out only. And, with the benefits they received from the state of, the government, unemployment and things like that, ended up working out okay for them, especially the first time around with that extra money. And then we actually did a tip pool. All our tips went to them in the beginning, and things like that we earned from carry out. So, but anyone that wanted to come back came back. And then during this most recent one, we had to hire a couple additional people. So we actually posted some ads and hired people. And then we haven't really had I think the thing that they're most excited about is just to be warm, because like our poor taproom staff has been working in an outdoor environment in the middle of, January, and it's been hard on them. So I think they're excited about coming back and just being warm. We're bringing back even more people, like our hosts and hostesses and bussers that we didn't have on. So yeah, I think it's going to be good for everyone.
Yeah, and as brewery operations, the brewery has been consistently busy. That hasn't stopped. It actually has escalated. So yeah, we've actually hired more people on the brewery side as well. So no one was laid off. No one was let go in this whole process. And we're very grateful and very lucky to be in the situation that we're in.
Yeah, because they do say everyone's drinking a lot more. Liquor sales and beer sales have been through the roof right now during this time. So did you guys reopen?
Yeah, they always say, sorry.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so we're closed on every Monday. We're always closed on Mondays. So our first indoor opening would be today.
Oh, wow. So this is the first big day for you guys. I will say, if it's like anything at our local restaurants here in the Keego area, they looked packed yesterday. So that is a good thing. I think people are so desperate just to get out, because one thing we've all learned, it's not just about the meal, it's about the atmosphere as well. And just getting to see like people again, right?
Yeah, just a slice of normalcy is, I think, what people are excited about, going back to a time that wasn't so crazy, hopefully.
So when you guys were doing outdoor, and I know you said you're going to be keeping it around as well, do you take reservations for that? How is it working?
No, it's a first come first serve basis. We do have like one of our managers is as a host at the door, and they seat people to make sure that social distancing and we're following all those other regulations. But we don't do reservation. We never have, because our tap rooms actually, before the pandemic, was set up more as a like beer hall almost, where it's like communal seating, where you could sit down at a table with strangers. Obviously now, not so much due to, we only let 6 people from the same group at a table. But We do have a thing that's called wait list on the Yelp app. So when we get to like where we're too busy and at our capacity, we utilize this wait app so people can get in like a digital line to wait to get in, and they can sit in their cars, or they can even do it from their house and then come when they're getting closer to the front of the line. So while we don't have reservations, we do utilize that, which seems to work out pretty well.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to do it. And with that, how important has social media been for you and your company during this time?
Oh, crucial. Yeah. Just to get the word out on any new change, especially, the first shutdown also, we had a new thing every day. Every day was a new something that we were even selling groceries for a little bit. And especially now, just letting people know, what we're doing and our new products, or, what our rules are and things like that. It's been very crucial.
So how concerned are you as, the leaders of a team about COVID-19 outbreaks? Because despite all of the protocols that any place puts in place, the virus is still out there, and we know it. And when it comes to having a staff, if you get so many members of a staff and then everyone has to quarantine, we've seen it at restaurants. It's happened before, and they have to close down. It can be devastating.
Yeah, it sure can. And luckily we've been fortunate. I think just with our people have been really good about wearing their mask at all times, even when we're not open and things like that. We haven't had really like an outbreak, but it's still a risk and a concern at all times. So we just hope that everyone kind of follows the guidelines that come in, and we're doing it, of course, at all times. So hoping that, just trying to minimize the risk as best we can. It is a scary time though.
You just got to follow policies, procedures, and keep yourself safe. And if someone does get it, we have policies and procedures to follow after that. So it's a lot of P's and Q's and dotting your I's and crossing your T's and just making sure that we're all safe at all times.
Yeah, this has definitely been a learning curve. Quickly before I let you guys go, because I've been taking up too much of your time, but you're one of my favorite restaurants to go to, but I will say I haven't been there during the pandemic because I stay for the most part here close to home. But I know that before they put out that restaurants were supposed to be taking names and numbers, and then it was a recommendation. Is that still in place under the reopening, or is that still just a recommendation and it's gone away?
I believe it's still in place. We do it. I just read some more details on the most recent mandate the other day, and I did see it in there. So I do think it is, whether it's recommended or mandated, it's still something that they're trying to have people do. And we have been doing it even with just outdoor dining, and we're going to continue doing it with the new one. So we're, covering our bases.
I will say it's been fun to go into some of the local restaurants where they just have the book out for people to sign.
Yeah.
Of course, Jenny, 8675309 is listed quite often.
There's some interesting names.
Right? And I'm sure you'll be singing that the rest of the afternoon as well. But again, thank you both for being with us. Anything I didn't ask that you want to share? What are your hours?
We have two different locations with different hours. Right here in Birmingham, we're open from 3 to 9 during the week. And then on Friday, Saturday, it's noon to 10, and then Sunday, noon to 8. But up in Rochester Hills at our Griffin Claw Clubhouse, right off Crooks and M59, they're open at noon during the week. So they're noon to 9, I believe, Tuesday through Thursday, and then noon to 10 on the weekends.
So do you guys have the full menu or a limited menu right now? Because I need some mac and cheese.
Nope, it's a full menu.
That's great. That's great. Well, it's been great having the two of you on with us. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, and good luck, and let's hope that this is behind us sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, just about 20 minutes left in the show. And when we come back, we will be speaking with the Michigan High School Athletic Association. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask. Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together. Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for being with us on the Megacast. As a reminder, you can catch Tyler and myself Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. You can watch and listen on Civic Center TV. Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can also catch us on Comcast Channel 15. And if you have AT&T, tune us into Channel 99. But if you're out driving around in the car, you can also get us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And today, we are also live streaming today's edition of the Megacast on my Facebook page, my journalist page, Ronnie Dahl, so you can tune in there as well. Before we wrap up the show today, though, we want to bring in Geoff Kimmerley. He's the Assistant Director of Communications for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You guys are in such a tough position right now because, of course, high school basketball, hockey, and cheerleading is on hold right now due to the pandemic, and the MHSAA is caught in the middle. How are you doing, Geoff?
We're hanging in there. We're working on this every day, as you can imagine, but we're hoping things will get everybody back out there here as soon as possible.
But there were a lot of lessons learned with the fall sports, and at the end of the day, fall sports were able to resume, and quite successfully as well. So were you and other members of the MHSAA caught a little off guard that winter sports were going to be put on hold?
Well, I think they're really not a comparable situation, honestly. We were able to pick up our final three sports, football and volleyball and Lower Peninsula girls swimming and diving, because of a rapid testing pilot program from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And so that was the prerequisite for those athletes and teams to be able to compete. That isn't something that is available for winter sports. Obviously, we have far more teams that would be left compared to what we had a few weeks ago for the fall. Thousands more athletes, and MDHHS had told us, early on in the process that this was going to be a pilot test for fall sports. So we can't really compare the two. We can be really happy with the results of the pilot testing. 1% of the 5,300 participants who took part tested positive. Only 0.2% of the nearly 30,000 tests that were administered came back positive. Obviously, that shows that we can do things safely. But because that testing program was there for those fall sports and not for the winter, it's hard to compare the two.
So with that, of course, the Let Them Play organization this morning, they did file the lawsuit. They have some pretty interesting points to make during this lawsuit. What are your thoughts about this topic?
Well, we're not involved in the lawsuit. We haven't been asked to be part of the lawsuit. We are working with our partners in education to talk directly to the decision makers. We've worked with MDHHS all along, over the course of the last really year now when it comes to COVID-19. We're going to continue to work with them. Obviously, we want to have our students out there playing as soon as possible. And we have other winter sports that are going, non-contact winter sports going full blast as we speak. We hope to get everybody else out there as soon as possible. But we have a different avenue to take to pursue that goal. And that's what we're doing from our standpoint.
So what we saw happen in the fall is there was a lot of stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. Do you anticipate having the same situation for some of the winter sports as well?
Hopefully not. Hopefully once we start those last few, wrestling included, we'll be able just to finish all the way through. We've already adjusted our dates so that we're finishing those sports in late March and early and mid-April, as opposed to early March and mid to late March. So we've already extended the time there to try and give those sports a longer season. Our sports that are going right now, skiing, alpine skiing has been going on its original schedule more or less since December. That's slated here to finish up in about 3 weeks. Boys and girls in the UP, swimming and diving has been going. Bowling has been going. Girls gymnastics has been going. So we have no reason to think that there will be any delay there. We're hopeful once the other ones get started, we won't have to stop those either.
So I know that you had said that for some of the fall sports, they were able to play because of the pilot program. Even though there are more teams, it's the thought process that they can't have the same type of testing pilot program just because of a numbers game, because there are so many more players and so many more teams.
Well, that's really a question for the health department. The health department gave us the tests free of charge to the schools. We delivered them to the schools. But if that's something that can be done at a larger scale, that would be a question that they would have to answer. We just kind of served as the person to help the schools be able to put this together, and then the schools really took the ball and ran with it.
It's so hard because these decisions are being made, but in the same time, you have some of these students who, for many of them, they're concerned not just about the game today, but what this could mean for their future. Because for some of them, if they can't get into some of these outside leagues and teams, they can't play. And if they can't play, that means the loss of potential scholarships and them going to college. Does that part of this conversation factor into any of the talks that you're having with the health department at all?
Not our talk specifically. We don't focus on the college scholarship aspect of this. We have 60,000 athletes, and whether they go on to play after high school or they don't, all of them to us are just as important as the next. And we're here to advocate for all 60,000 of them. So we want them all to get on the court or on the mat because we want them to have a memorable high school experience. Understanding, of course, that, a lot of people are looking at that college future as well. And it's hard to say how something like this might affect that. But from our standpoint, we're looking at bringing them the high school experience. And so there may be that 1% or 2% that will go on to play in college. But we're considering all 100% of those 60,000 when we're working with our partners to make this happen.
So we keep hearing from the Whitmer Association or administration about the science and the data. Do they provide you and members of your team with science and data when they make these decisions, or are you learning this information along with us, the general public?
Well, we know that they're looking at metrics, of course. We've known that all along. We look at the metrics too. Every day at 3:00 or soon after, we are watching to see what the numbers are that day. So it's a matter of knowing which metrics we need to follow. And obviously with the pilot test, they provided us the opportunity to compile some data, and they've shared that data with us. And that's the data I shared with you just now on the success of that. And otherwise we just know that we have to keep watching, and it's really not our decision to make. So the best we can do is continue to do our best and to work with not only the health department, but also superintendents associations and other administrators and coaches associations. That's the path that we're taking to hopefully bring these back as quickly as we can.
And so, Geoff, I kind of feel like you guys are caught in the middle between all of this. I couldn't imagine the phone calls you get, not only in your conversations with the health departments, but with the parents and the students, but the schools and the coaches as well. It's got to feel like a no-win situation some days.
Well, and we understand, though. I mean, the athletes that are not out there playing right now are eager to play, and we get it. We're eager to have them play. But we're doing everything that we can. And there's always a lot more going on than probably meets the eye. And we share that information with our schools as much as, as soon as we learn something, we pass it on. So, the great majority of the calls we get are what's the news today or what's happening today. Well, if there's something, we're going to let you know. Just right now, there hasn't been anything for the last few days. So like I said, we hope to bring the rest of the sports back as soon as possible. But at the same time, it's going to be as soon as we know, you guys will all know, everybody will know, and everybody will be very happy about it, I'm sure.
Do you guys have any conversations with other individuals, like in other states that are open and playing right now, such as Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, about some of the things that they're doing, the measures that they're taking as well?
Sure. Especially in the Midwest, the executive directors have a pretty active group where they can bounce ideas off of each other. Different sections of what we do within our office have similar groups, all the communications people, all the student services people, et cetera. But yes, when it comes to something like this, there definitely has been a lot of conversation between our executive director and other executive directors in the Midwest.
I know that some of the schools are pretty frustrated with things that are going on, especially when they see neighboring states allow for sports. I believe I read something where some Catholic schools were even considering leaving and join other leagues outside of the state of Michigan. Is there concern that some of these student athletes are going to say goodbye to high schools and try to join some of these travel teams? But then that leaves a huge gap as well for some of the students that can't afford them, because these traveling teams, they get expensive.
No, and that's a very true statement. Certainly, there are more opportunities to do something like that if people are able to afford it. And yeah, for sure, we know that we have athletes in a variety of sports who have gone out of state. Not just in the last couple of months, but last summer especially, into the fall as well. So that's not too surprising to hear examples of that. We hear those examples pretty frequently. But at the same time, when it comes to school sports, we hope to get those going soon. So that's what the best we can do is continue to work for that. And trust me, we are spending every minute of every day, 7 days a week, working toward that goal.
I know it's got to be hard. So many of us adults, and we don't understand it because we're saying, hey, let's reopen the restaurants, the bars, and kids have to go back to in-person learning, but they can't play some of these sports when our numbers are lowest that they've been in weeks and even months. So, and we're hoping that our elected leaders and, the doctors know more than we do, but sometimes it can be hard to understand their decision-making process. And again, not a lot that people such as yourself or anyone else can do about it. And that is really kind of one of the reasons behind the lawsuit that was filed this morning as well. So you guys have your hands full, that's for sure.
We do, but I think we feel as though we're making progress all the time on this. Obviously, it's not as quickly as everyone would like, but our football, if you look back even at the fall, football, volleyball, and swimming, yeah, they finished late. They finished in January. That was certainly a first and hopefully the last time that ever happens, but we were able to finish. And so we would just ask people to have faith that we're going to continue to make this happen. And we're going to have 3 seasons, and we're going to have 3 seasons to conclusion. We've said that from the beginning of this school year. Nothing has changed. And so far, we've been able to finish one of those, and we hope to now be able to do the same with the winter. And yeah, do we want it to happen months down the road? Of course not. We'd rather have it happen as soon as possible, and that's what we're working for.
Well, we appreciate your time and your effort, and I know so many of the parents and the student athletes do as well. Geoff Kimmerley with us. He's the Assistant Director of Communications for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. And that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the MegaCast.